Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team featuring Shadow Flygon that helped this trainer climb over 200 points in the Sunshine Cup. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Legend Plush, so many thanks for the battle submission. This trainer ended up submitting two 5-0 sets. They had a massive climb onto the leaderboards, with the team featuring Magcargo as the lead, Shadow Flygon as the safe switch, and Ferrothorn as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this team in action in the Sunshine Cup. We've got a nightmare start in game number 1, Magcargo into Shadow Golurk. Quick safe switch into Shadow Flygon, unanswered by the opponent. They're just going to stay in here and fire off the Shadow Punch to deny Flygon's ability to get the turn back. There's the switch out from the opponent. They're going to send out Furret. Flygon, farming well past the Scorching Sands, going to opt for a Dragon Claw bait, and the bait is successful, able to grab a shield from the opponent. Opponent will be able to no-shield this Dragon Claw and farm down, but Flygon was able to do some very nice damage to that Furret. In comes Magcargo. Magcargo going to look to no-shield everything here. Just try and farm down, get as much energy as possible, whereas Furret is going to do its best to ramp up its damage more and more with each Trailblaze. Furret is going to be firing off Trailblaze number 2. Magcargo deep into the red, barely able to hang on. Looking to switch into Ferrothorn. In the back is Credilli, and this game looks winnable. The Golurk took so much damage from the Shadow Dragon Tails from Flygon that I think Golurk is actually going to get bullet seeded down here. It gets fully farmed down. Back in comes Credilli. Ferrothorn, smelling blood in the water, goes for the flash cannon. That's gonna land. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Moving into game number 2, this time an amazingly good lead, Magcargo into Shadow Pidgeot. Opponent is going to save switch into Furret. Furret farming up. Furret able to play to the charge attack priority tie here and fire off the Trailblaze as Magcargo is locked into a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will still inflict some pretty nice damage onto the Furret, and on top of that, lower their attack back to normal. In comes Flygon. Flygon able to get a full farm down. Flygon going to be met with the Shadow Pidgeot. These Shadow Gusts are going to do so much damage. Flygon, Dragon Claw is going to be shielded. Pidgeot going to try for a full Gust. Down here, no, they realize they can't get it, and instead they're forced to fire off this Air Cutter. Air Cutter is going to be shielded, and this way, Flygon's able to force the final shield or basically completely get rid of the Pidgeot. Pidgeot lets itself go. They get KO'd in the back. Oh no, it's Shadow Swampert, and in comes Ferrothorn. And these Bullet Seeds, they rarely do damage in any matchup, but here the Bullet Seeds are tearing through this opponent. Oh my goodness. Ferrothorn is going to farm up to the back-to-back Power Whips, and we have our second opponent conceding of this set. Moving to match number 3, a pretty nice lead, Magcargo into Furret. Now, overall, I would vastly prefer it to be the Magcargo rather than the Furret in this matchup. Magcargo has a very comfortable matchup, just going straight Rock Tomb. Opponent can fire off the Trailblaze, but Magcargo can just outpace and make it to a second Rock Tomb and pick up the knockout. Magcargo is going to save the energy, aggressive pivot into the Flygon, but Furret hangs on, making a last-second Swift, and that is big damage onto the Shadow Flygon. Opponent sends in a Skeledirge, and if this is their best response to a Flygon, then they must be so weak in the back. Oh my goodness, they are going to end up using a shield. They fire off energy here, going for the Torch Song, just looking to boost up their attack. Potentially worried Flygon was going to make a last-second move. I think if they committed to the farm down, they would have got it, but now they end up just fully sacrificing the Skeledirge. In the back is Magcargo, and now we see why they couldn't send in their third Pokemon into the Flygon. Magcargo is going to no-shield the Rock Tomb, and we're up to 3 top lefts in a row through the first 3 battles. Moving to battle number 4, going up against the 6'4 Ninja, and it's the same lead as last game, Magcargo into Furret. I'm curious if the battler will adjust the strategy at all, because attempting to bring in the Flygon, unfortunately, kind of backfired a little bit, with the Furret being able to hang on and make it to a Swift. Magcargo is going to fire off Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will not be enough to pick up the knockout. Furret respects the potential overheat, and there's the switch into Flygon. Flygon answered no with a Wigglytuff. This is absolutely disastrous. Thankfully, Flygon is able to make a Scorching Sands, dealing big damage to the Wigglytuff, and intentionally decides to not throw that final Dragon Tail. Instead, just trying to get as much farm on the Magcargo as possible. Magcargo will invest a shield, looking for a full farm down, going to exit with so much loaded energy, very close to the back-to-back Rock Tombs. Will the opponent bring back in the Furret? Furret would be immediately under threat from a Rock Tomb. Opponent brings in Steelix. Magcargo going for the kill shot here with the overheat. Overheat lands, down goes Steelix. Oh no, this opponent loses their entire Steelix instantly. Honestly, even if they shielded the Steelix, they were still in trouble because Steelix just does not have a lot of damage for Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn able to grab the shield from the Furret. Furret already ramped up its attack once with Trailblaze, going for Trailblaze number 2, trying to deal as much Sucker Punch damage as it possibly can, but it's just impossible for Furret to take home this win. Power Whip KOs the Furret. In comes Steelix. Oh, Steelix actually survived that, barely, and Steelix will get farmed down. And this is now 4-0, looking for the 5-0 set, but Magcargo into Lopunny, not a particularly great lead. The question will be, what moveset is Lopunny on? Magcargo just going to throw on alignment here, firing off the Rock Tomb, looking to debuff the opponent. Does Lopunny have Focus Blast? Magcargo says no, no shielding, and Magcargo is correct. The opponent is running Triple Axle and Fire Punch, so they're actually completely walled here. The Triple Axle is going to land, quick switch into the Flygon. Flygon answered with Furret, and Flygon being up energy here is incredibly nice, as normally Furret has a pacing advantage. Dragon Claw is going to land, Furret taking big damage from the Flygon. Flygon is just going to one-shield farm down here. This way Flygon will exit with energy, and Furret is completely neutralized. There is still energy available on the Magcargo for later in the game. In the back, oh my goodness, the spice. Out comes Zangoose. Zangoose is very, very frail. Look at the Dragon Tails go. But this Zangoose energy is going to be a problem. In comes Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn no shielding, hoping it's going to be a bait. The opponent should just go straight close combat, and they do. In comes Magcargo. Incinerate snipes down Lopunny. Zangoose's problem is they can't Fury Cutter down. Fury Cutters are heavily resisted. Magcargo does make it to the back-to-back Rock Tombs. Zangoose needs to have another Night Slash loaded here, otherwise they're going to lose this game. Rock Tomb gets the shield. Rock Tomb number 2 is going to land. Magcargo not hitting a single bubble. Rock Tomb still KOs, and that's going to be the first 5-0 set. Moving to set number 2, Magcargo, what a lead, leading into Abomasnow. Abomasnow is going to switch out into Credilli. Oh no, and Credilli's just going to get completely shut down by Ferrothorn. Considering the leads, the opponent so desperately needs to flip switch advantage. It's Abomasnow into Magcargo, but unfortunately for them, there's no way that Credilli can flip this. Flash Cannon is gonna land, and that's just way too much health lost for the opponent to ever recover. They're not gonna win switch advantage, and that means their poor Abomasnow is gonna get permanently stuck on Magcargo. The opponent can get a pretty nice farm down here with the Abomasnow, but the energy doesn't really go anywhere into the Magcargo, and they're going to take a Flash Cannon for their troubles. This is a heavily debuffed Flash Cannon, but even heavily debuffed, it still removes most of Abomasnow's health bar. Abomasnow will fire off energy. All that was going to be reached was a Power Whip, but still they're realizing they're rapidly running out of health. Magcargo will get trapped for a full Incinerate here. I love that play so much. Bringing in the Flygon, assuming the opponent was spam tapping the switch button. If the opponent was paying attention and not spam tapping the switch button, then they just automatically win the game because they have switch advantage. But instead, they were just spam tapping that switch button, and it's going to cost them this entire game. Flygon is going to be hit with the Aqua Tail. It will not be enough to knock out. This Dragon Claw is thrown to peel away the final shield, and then it's all up to Magcargo. The opponent's win con, if one exists, is going to be to catch the Rock Tomb onto Abomasnow. They need to land a move from Quagsire. Quagsire does not get the catch. That's going to be the end of Quagsire, and that means game over, because this Abomasnow is about to get burned down by Magcargo. In comes Abomasnow, it gets farmed down, and that's going to be a win. Moving to the next match, battling against Chillis FM, a fellow content creator. Great lead, Magcargo. Oh no, into the Piloswine. Save switch Credilli, answered with a Ferrothorn, and Ferrothorn is absolutely feasting on these Credillis in set number 2. Ferrothorn is going to farm up, over-farming, accidentally playing to a CMP tie that it does not win. So a bit of a misplay by the Ferrothorn, but this matchup is still so dominant that Ferrothorn should still be very okay here. Flash Cannon is going to land, even at -2, that inflicts some serious damage, and now a -2 Power Whip should be enough to pick up the KO. Power Whip is going to land. Opponent will get to bring back in the Piloswine. Piloswine obviously going to be still taking super effective damage here. Piloswine going to have to absorb this -2 Power Whip. That still does so much damage. How was that debuffed? That did not feel like a debuffed move whatsoever. Piloswine Icicle Spear will pick up the KO. In the back is Flygon. Flygon going to get debuffed by Magcargo, and then the opponent is just simply going to get Dragon Tailed down. Rock Tomb applies that debuff, in comes Shadow Flygon, and now the opponent is just in a losing position because they just simply cannot recover from these Dragon Tails. Flygon gets a full farm down, in comes Piloswine. Piloswine gets farmed down as well, and that is game over. Moving into the next match, Magcargo versus Gligar. Generally okay for Magcargo as long as a dig will not land. There's going to be a safe switch into Furret. Furret does not build up to the Trailblaze. This must be a Brick Break Furret, and it is. So now the Magcargo takes super effective damage, and its defense has been debuffed as well. Magcargo is going to look to debuff the Furret here. Furret now going to get debuffed. In comes Flygon. Flygon will not quite get the farm down as Furret is able to hang on and make a last second Swift. That Swift still does massive damage onto the Flygon. Flygon now going to be answered with the Gligar. Gligar will not be threatened by a Dragon Claw, but the Dragon Claws will still add up quite a bit, as now they're below half HP. Can they get the farm down? Yes, they can. Oh, that is devastating. Flygon got the Dragon Claw, but the Fury Cutter sniped down before it was able to be used. In the back, oh no, it's Shadow Swampert. They just blind switched the Swampert, hoping that it was going to be the Magcargo hitting the field, but it was not. It is the Ferrothorn. Bullet Seeds already have the opponent almost to the red HP. Hydro Cannon will land. That does deal a pretty considerable amount of damage for being resisted. Shadow Swampert still packs a punch. Ferrothorn gonna look for the farm down, but Swampert says no. Able to hang on. Ferrothorn is gonna no shield. Should survive a Hydro Cannon here, not by much. Blind throwing the move, anticipating the switch into Gligar. Ferrothorn very close to the back-to-back moves here. There's the switch into Magcargo. Is this the Aerial Ace catch? Shields, it was a blind dig, anticipating the switch in. Great play by the opponent, trying to make it seem like the move was caught, but it was not. Magcargo able to pick up the KO with the Rock Tomb and then incinerate down Swampert for the win. Moving to the next game, what a terrible lead, leading Magcargo into Shadow Quagsire, so it's time for Flygon. Flygon gonna be answered with a Drampa, and Drampa just gets deleted by Dragon Tails. Oh no. Flygon showing Drampa who the real Dragon type is. In comes Quagsire to get immediately shredded by Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is gonna land, and Flygon is just dominating this game. In comes Ferrothorn, Bullet Seed goes through. That's going to be the end of Quagsire. Opponent's going to need whatever they have in back to 1v2, and that may actually be able to do it. It's a Dragon Tail Shadow Flygon. Flygon is a terrifying Pokemon, and it's probably the one thing the opponent could have had in the back other than a Blaziken that would be able to sweep here. We're going to see the No Shield calling that it's a Dragon Claw, but it's not. Scorching Sands is going to land, and now in comes Magcargo. These Incinerates do add up over time, even despite Flygon resisting them. Flygon will go for the Dragon Claw bait. Magcargo firing off the Rock Tomb. This is a guaranteed shield from the opponent. They need to make it to a Dragon Claw plus a Scorching Sands if they want a chance to win this game. A Dragon Claw will not be enough. The Dragon Claw is shielded. Do they have the move? No, they do not, and this is going to be a win. Flygon was one of the best Pokemon they could have had in the back, but unfortunately it was not quite able to pull off the 1v2 sweep. I believe this is now 9-0 with this team for Legend Plush, looking for the perfect 10-0, but it's a tricky lead. Magcargo into Shadow Gligar. Magcargo is going to respect the dig. Will the opponent go for it? Yes, they will. Magcargo now should have a bit of a pacing advantage in this matchup, as it should be able to make the back-to-back Rock Tombs before the second dig. So Magcargo gets the Rock Tomb number 2, and now the opponent has a choice to make. Are they willing to go down a shield? The answer is no. They let the Gligar go. They're going to send in Swampert, a pivot out into Flygon, answered with Abomasnow. This is a terrible spot to be as the Flygon, but Ferrothorn should be able to sweep this game. The Abomasnow has been baited out. Abomasnow is going to get stuck on the Magcargo, and Magcargo is going to inflict massive damage onto this Abomasnow. If the opponent baits, which they do, they'll be able to outpace and make an energy ball, which would matter if there were more shields in play, but unfortunately this is the zero shield. Ferrothorn is always sweeping this endgame. Opponent is going to switch into the Swampert. There's just nothing Swampert can do here damage-wise. Opponent throws a bad manners sludge and then is going to concede the match. It looks like they included a bonus battle, so we have the two 5-0 sets, and we have an 11th battle as well. And Magcargo into Furret, a lead we've seen play out quite a few times. Very comfortable lead for the Magcargo. Magcargo is going to be hit with a move here. It is another Brick Break Furret, so the second time we've seen the Brick Break tech from an opponent. Magcargo will fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to land. The quick switch into the Shadow Flygon, and Flygon will immediately be hit with the Swift from the Furret. That does deal quite a bit of damage. Out comes an Acid Credilli. And if this is their best response to a Flygon save switch, they are very, very core broken. Something is wrong. Maybe it's some kind of fire or something, but they are incredibly weak to Flygon in the back if this is their best answer. Flygon full sends the Scorching. It's going to land, and down goes Credilli. Flygon has a decent amount of energy as well for whatever's going to be in the back, and in the back is Talonflame. Talonflame could make this a really tricky endgame because the Ferrothorn is completely useless. There's a switch into Magcargo over farming to avoid a catch, and the catch happens anyway. Oh no, what a soul read by the opponent, catching the Rock Tomb back onto Furret. In comes Talonflame, winning charge attack priority over the Magcargo. The final Protect Shield is used here. Legend Plush wants to apply a permanent attack drop to this Talonflame for the remainder of the game. The Rock Tomb is going to be shielded. These Incinerates do add up as well, and this is going to be a tricky endgame, as the Ferrothorn is obviously not going to be able to do anything into this Talonflame. In comes the Ferrothorn. When do you snipe? It should be right here. There's the snipe with the Flygon. Very well played, and that's a good game. All in all, this seems to be a really solid climbing team for the current Sunshine Cup. I would say my one concern would be potentially if Shadow Blaziken has a big spike in usage, then I could see this team being more difficult to run, since obviously Magcargo and Ferrothorn both really do not appreciate Shadow Blaziken, but as long as that Pokemon doesn't get super common, I feel like this team makes quite a bit of sense. The team as a whole is very strong into Furret, which is on the vast majority of teams. And considering how common Credilli is, having a Pokemon in the back like Ferrothorn that's able to completely shut it down really ends up giving you an advantage in quite a number of games. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.